morning and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. The Jamaican government remains in defense mode this evening as yet another major U.S. media outlet has taken up the issue of sexual assaults on the island's tourist resorts. The latest story appeared on the #1 rated morning show in the United States, Good Morning America, GMA, today. But first, to the government's response. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett has announced the revision of hiring practices and staff training for employees within the industry. Minister Bartlett says the government is creating a new tourism paradigm to protect and ensure visitors' safety and security on the island. He was speaking at the Golden Tourism Day Awards in Montego Bay last evening. Jamila Maitland reports.
Mr. Bartlett says the government will be taking a collaborative approach to addressing the mounting allegations of sexual assault by tourists.
I know that there is something in the public space which has not worked well for us. The issues of sexual harassment and the issues of criminality that historically or otherwise might have been a feature. We are determined that the new architecture must see a Jamaica that rids itself of even the slightest perception on that matter.
Mr. Bartlett says workers will undergo stringent ethics training.
So we are going to develop a whole new program of training and discourses and discussion about something that we're calling tourism ethics, which is the way in which we interact and relate to our guests in a manner which is friendly, yes, but is respective of their particular personality and their human rights.
And in an update to the security audit the minister has ordered of resorts, Mr. Bartlett says so far this has been completed on 14 properties. He also announced that tourism security expert Dr. Peter Tarlow is spearheading a comprehensive review team as part of the new paradigm.
Next year early, we're bringing in an international team headed by Dr. Peter Tarlow and a group called Global Rescue to work with us to structure and to develop a full new program of how we interact and we relate to international guests. This is very important.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
And Minister Bartlett's comments come just as Jamaica's tourism industry took another hit in the international media today. This morning, the popular TV show Good Morning America carried a story about sexual assault at Caribbean resorts, particularly at the Jamaican-owned hotel chain Sandals Resorts. They spoke with 2 alleged victims, one of whom is suing the company for $30 million. They also spoke with Sandals Deputy CEO Adam Stewart. Here's more.
As glamorous as the Riviera.
It's one of the hottest luxury resort chains, welcoming over 10 million guests across 30 years.
But it's even better because it's in Jamaica.
But Melissa Blayton says her Jamaican vacation to Sandals Ochi Beach Resort last year was anything but relaxing.
Little did I know that it was going to turn into something that I can never take back.
She says one of the resort's employees offered her a solo sailing excursion and that once they were alone on the water, he physically and sexually assaulted her.
You trust these people that are paid to make sure you're having a great time.
She says when she reported him to the resort, she asked if she should call police. She says they told her they would take care of it and rushed her into signing a voucher for a future trip, which included a non-disclosure agreement. Ashley and Jeff Pascarella say something similar happened to them.
We had a lot of dreams, just that it would be, just the perfect wedding on a paradise island.
They say on the night before their 2006 wedding at the company's Royal Bahamian Resort, the butler provided to them by the company sexually assaulted the bride-to-be.
It's the day before a wedding. I'm supposed to be that guy to protect her and, care for her. And hours before we're supposed to get married, something like this happened.
They say Sandals offered to reimburse them the $15,000 they spent on the wedding, but only if they agreed to sign a non-disclosure agreement. They refused, and they're now suing for $30 million. These allegations, part of a bombshell series by the Detroit Free Press, claiming women are being assaulted at various Caribbean resorts and then paid for their silence.
There almost seems to be this protocol. Resort management or staff will quickly huddle around, talk to the victim, and they try to take care of things by themselves.
Adam Stewart, the deputy chairman of Sandals Resorts International, says although rare, he is aware of some incidents involving his resorts. How many alleged assaults are you aware of right now?
It would depend as to how far we go back, but a handful.
A handful, meaning like 3, 4, 5, something around that?
Something probably around in the region of around 10.
He says the company has strict safety and security protocols, and for any incident, the police are always called. But Melissa says she never heard from police. In this particular case, this woman says police were not notified, and she was told that the resort was going to handle it. Was that an appropriate response?
In this particular case, and in all cases, the police are notified. We have pioneered and developed safety and security protocols with our customers at the center of it.
As for the Pascarellas, were all protocols followed in that case as well?
That particular case is now before the courts, and I can't comment specifically on it, but I can say that in the hospitality industry, the world over, that anytime we don't deliver, refunds are a part of the tapestry if we don't exceed our expectations.
In exchange for a non-disclosure, though?
Well, a settlement agreement is what we would call it in this particular case, when any type of, if any type of refund may be on the table.
Bottom line, do you think offering someone who claims to have been sexually assaulted by one of your employees a refund and a non-disclosure agreement, do you think that's the proper way to handle a situation like that?
Amy, our security protocols are crystal clear. They're in place. They have served the company very well over the years. We follow them to the book to ensure that we take care of our clients and their safety.
And when we come back, the November inflation numbers are in. We'll tell you what it was after the break. Welcome back. 0% inflation. That's what the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin recorded in November. It means on average there was no increase in prices last month heading into the busy Christmas season. The latest data is outlined in Statin's Consumer Price Index CPI for November, released today. Statin says the movement was influenced by a 0.3% increase in food prices, particularly higher prices for vegetables, starchy foods, and fruits. However, this increase was tempered by declines in gas and electricity prices. Point-to-point inflation from November last year to November this year now stands at 4.1%. That's on the lower end of the BOJ's target range. The Court of Appeal has temporarily stopped the shutdown of telecommunications company Carousel. In a ruling today, the court is allowing Carousel's parent company Symbiote Investment to challenge a Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court had previously refused Symbiote's request for leave to seek judicial review of the government's decision to revoke Carousel's telecommunications licenses. The court has also stayed the implementation of the minister's revocation order until January 14. On that date, attorneys for both sides are to make arguments before the Court of Appeal on whether the company's application for leave should be allowed. By March, workers in the tourism industry will finally hear parts of the much-anticipated tourism pension legislation. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett, who was addressing patrons at the Golden Tourism Day Awards ceremony over the weekend, begged for more time to get the legislation right.
Yes, we want it to happen quickly, but we want to have it right. We want to get it right. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, the workers, you who have worked for 50 years and over, and who have retired, can retire in the certain knowledge that there will be pecuniary rewards for you after you have left the companies that you work with.
He says the tourism pension legislation will be the first of its kind worldwide. He says it must go through rigorous assessment before being taken to Parliament.
Nobody else in the world has a tourism policy for pension like we are trying to introduce. Nobody. And consequently, we had concerns by the legal entities as to exactly what it was. The second concern was that we had to legislate. And it would have been the first policy to be legislated in terms of contribution.
Minister Bartlett says unlike other pension plans that are company-based or job-based, the tourism pension plan seeks to cover all possible jobs within the tourism sector, from drivers to rafters and housekeepers to crafters.
The craft vendor has a place in this pension plan. So the transportation sector, the Juta man and the Jekyll man, yes? And all the other transportation providers in Jamaica have a place in this plan. And also the attraction workers, the rafters. Yes, the rafters on the Rio Grande, and the rafters on Great River, and the rafters on Martha Brae, all will have a place in this plan.
Access Financial Services says it's acquired all the shares of Florida-based consumer finance company Embassy Loans Incorporated. The acquisition cost $6.4 million. The transaction was completed last Friday and was funded from the proceeds of a $900 million global bond issued in October. CEO of Access Financial Services, Marcus James, says the acquisition of Embassy is in keeping with the company's long-term strategy to diversify its operations and revenue streams into markets with profitable opportunities for growth. He says the acquisition will provide a platform for the company's expansion in North America. Access Financial Services is Jamaica's leading microfinance company. It provides microbusiness, small, SME, and personal loans. Name them and shame them. Government Senator Don Webby wants the Auditor General to make public all those who benefited from the millions of dollars in contracts at Petrojam and the money returned to the government. Senator Webby made the remarks during his contribution to the State of the Nation debate in the Senate last Friday. Jamila Maitland reports.
Senator Webby noted that while some establishments that benefited from the donations, contracts, and sponsorships were named, others were not. He says he wants all names released to the public.
Mr. President, I'm also calling for companies and their principals that benefited from Petrojam contracts in breach of the procurement rules must be named.
He's also calling for all monies used for personal matters to be repaid. Senator Webby acknowledged the recent pledge made by former Energy Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley to repay the $10,000 spent on his surprise birthday party.
Mr. President, I want to say to that all Petrojam funds that were used for personal benefits must be repaid, including those used for the former minister's birthday party and birthday cake. I'm happy to hear that Andrew Wheatley is willing to repay the funds.
Meanwhile, Senator Webby says he's still awaiting a report from the Chris Zaka-led strategic review team on the viability and the future of Petrojam.
I'm really hoping that Zaka and his committee will be given the necessary resources and focus will be given to that committee. We need some timelines of when we are going to get that report from the committee. Mr. President, based on my limited knowledge of the industry, I have to seriously ask the question about the viability in its current form.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
And when we come back, one of Antigua's economic citizens wanted by Interpol. This and more in regional and international news up next. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. The Antiguan government is responding to a reported Interpol red notice for one of its citizenship by investment residents. Here's ABS News' Jamie J. Roche with more.
A red notice from the International Police or Interpol is a request for member states to locate and provisionally arrest a fugitive pending extradition. The Indian government has accused diamond mogul Mehul Choksi of being involved in a $1 billion scam to defraud a state-owned bank in India. Choksi, who became an Antiguan CIP citizen before any charges were filed against him, currently resides in this country. Indian officials say on their request, Interpol issued a red corner notice for Choksi on Wednesday. The notice has not been made public on the Interpol's website, but Indian media says they've acquired a document that was reportedly sent to law enforcers of all Interpol member countries. Attorney General the Honorable Sedvoy Benjamin says the notice is yet to reach his desk.
I must confess that I've heard that that red flag note was issued. I have not received it, however. Be that as it may, that does not in any way stop us from continuing with our judicial process of the request made legitimately to us by the Indian government.
According to Interpol, a red notice is not an international arrest warrant, and every member country is left to determine what legal value to give to notices in their borders. So, will Choksi be arrested should the government receive confirmation of the notice?
If and when the government receives this red notice, appropriate advice will be taken and appropriate action given by the government of Antigua and Barbuda.
Choksi is challenging a request for his extradition to face charges in his native India. The Attorney General says the government of Antigua and Barbuda is working with due haste under the law to see the completion of the matter. I am Jamie J. Roche reporting for ABS News.
Guyana sugar workers are still pushing for a salary increase. The workers say they haven't had an increase in years, and therefore one is long overdue. Here's more.
Days after the Guyana Sugar Corporation announced that sugar workers will receive a bonus as sugar production is set to surpass its target, the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union has indicated that it is still pressing the company for a retroactive salary increase. The union wants a 15% salary increase for sugar workers that it would like to see be made retroactive to January of this year. In its statement, GAWU said sugar workers who are still employed by the industry are the only workers in the state sector to have not gotten any pay increase since the coalition took office 3.5 years ago. The union said it has already concluded discussions on the non-wage benefits with the sugar company, and those engagements resulted in a few improvements being secured. GAWU noted that its discussions so far have been conducted in a more amicable environment, and it is hoping that the current and future discussions could be conducted in a similar or improved atmosphere, as that augurs well for the GAWU and Gaisuco relations. The union has pointed out that its 42-year relationship with Gaisuco had reached its lowest point in recent years. GAWU has now put forward a counter-proposal regarding the bonus. The union, while not providing details on that counter-proposal, said the corporation has given a commitment to examine that suggestion soon. The union today said the bonus cannot be a substitute for a pay increase, which has been denied for far too long.
Things are expected to change dramatically for Mexico's 2 million domestic workers following a recent Supreme Court ruling. Earlier this month, the Supreme Court gave the Mexican government 3 years to ensure mandatory enrollment of domestic workers in the Social Security system. Al Jazeera's John Holman reports from Mexico City.
A frugal breakfast before Isabel heads out to clean someone else's house. More than 2 million Mexicans, almost all of them women, start the day in the same way. In this small army of domestic workers, almost no one has health benefits, job security, or a pension. For Isabel, at 59 years old, that weighs heavy.
The future is very uncertain. I live day to day. I don't know what will happen tomorrow.
But things are changing. An acclaimed new film, Roma, dedicated to the domestic worker who helped raise the movie's director, has helped make them more visible. And, more tangibly, the Supreme Court has just ruled that they now must be signed up to state social security. That means benefits like childcare, housing loans and healthcare. It's what the small but determined Domestic Workers Union and its founder Marcelina Bautista have been fighting years for. She explains why it's desperately needed.
Our quality of life goes downhill while our employers just get better. They get ill less, but when we get ill, we don't have any health benefits. They don't have to pay for child care or an old age home, but we lock up our children or our old people to go to work for them.
The Supreme Court decision is part of a slow cultural shift in a country where traditionally domestic workers are called muchachas, girls. Some are treated like part of the family, others suffer discrimination or abuse.
One employer would say to another, "I'll lend you her, I'll lend you her," as if you're just an object.
The social security contributions will be paid for between the state, workers themselves and employers. It's sure to cause ripples in a society used to inexpensive help. This is a big issue in Mexico because almost every household from the lower middle class upwards hires a domestic worker. It's cheap enough that they can afford to. So a change in the system could mean a change in lifestyle for some of those people. The new social security measure faces resistance even from some domestic workers who fear employers will fire them or cut their salaries if they have to contribute too. Marcelina says that can't be allowed to stop the change.
That's the point. Everyone who has a bit of money wants someone to clean for them. But we want them to be responsible. If they don't have enough money to hire someone, they should clean for themselves, not pay people under the table.
For the union, it's just the beginning. They're pushing for paid overtime, holidays and formal contracts. Times are changing for the millions like Isabel. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
Stay with us, talking stocks after the break. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 61 stocks traded today, of which 20 advanced, 25 declined, and 16 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 3,911 points to close at over 372,000 points. The junior index advanced by 0.38 points to close at over 3,000 points. 4.7 million units traded today, valued at over $2 million on the Jamaican dollar market. While on the U.S. dollar market, more than 116,000 units traded, valued at over 31,000 U.S. dollars. NCB Financial Group, with over 702,000 units trading, accounted for 15% of market volume. Grace Kennedy, with over 602,000 units trading, was second, and Sagicor Group, with more than 530,000 units trading, was third, making up 11% of market volume. The main advancers were Sterling Investments U.S. dollar ordinary shares, closing at 2 U.S. cents, followed by Knutsford Express Services, up 71 cents to close at $10.88, and Berger Paints Jamaica, up $1.20 to close at $23.20. The main decliners were Jamaica Producers Group, down $3.74 to close at $22.96, followed by Margaritaville Turks U.S. dollar ordinary shares, down 2 cents U.S. to close at 22 cents, and Alaska Financial Services, down 30 cents to close at $4. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost to the U.S. dollar and British pound today, but gained on the Canadian dollar. The U.S. dollar ended the day selling for $129.15, gaining 12 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar ended the day selling for $96.92 on average, losing 3 cents to the Jamaican. And the British pound ended the day selling at $162.15, a $3.03 gain on the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of our top story. The Jamaican government remains in defense mode this evening as yet another major U.S. media outlet has taken up the issue of sexual assaults on the island's tourist resorts. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.